So it may seem shocking with my wide wealth of cinematic prowess, but I've never seen a single Fast and Furious movie in my entire life. The closest I've ever gotten to living the Fast and the Furious lifestyle is when I drive on the highway and the riced up Honda Civics think I'm one of them and wonder why I'm only going 15 over the speed limit. JK, officers of the law, I only go the exact speed limit. So I decided that today, as Fast X or Fast 10 is making its way to home viewing enjoyment, that I would watch every single Fast and Furious movie and report my findings. I have no idea what to expect. I just thought this shirt seemed Fast and Furious-y. Because I'm under the impression that these movies started as fairly standard street racing flicks and somehow ended up with Ludacris and Tyrese in space. In a car. And I just genuinely want to know what got us to this place. What drives the Fast and Furious franchise to push the boundaries of what a car can do? But I also kind of want to start with the extreme and then go back to where it all started. So come with me on this journey while I watch 21 hours? There's 21 hours of Fast and Furious? Oh no, what did I do? Come with me on this journey as I hope to bring us all together as one. Because outside of fast cars, the only thing I know about this franchise is the other F. Family. And you know what else I've learned every family needs thanks to Dom? Food. And thanks to today's sponsor, HelloFresh, I have some. As mentioned, time and basic life management are the areas I struggle in the most. So taking the time to plan meals and get everything I need, kinda my nightmare, I just won't do it. Especially now that we're sliding into summer, I want to spend most time away from work outside as I possibly can. And thankfully, HelloFresh has me covered. Every week I get to pick from a variety of different meals that come with easy to follow step-by-step instructions that even an idiot like me can follow. They send everything I need to get it done right in the box, and each meal tells you how long it should take to cook, so I can go right for those fast and fresh options to get back to the things I love faster. HelloFresh also lets you swap out protein so you can customize every meal exactly how you like it. So like I don't like ground beef, for example, so I swap in ground turkey and I can still take advantage of all of those delicious meals. So if you want to take advantage of some delicious and convenient meals, head on over to HelloFresh.com and use code JEDI16 to get 16 free meals plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com and code JEDI16. So obviously there's going to be spoilers, and I really thought that starting with 10 and then going back to see where everything started would be the most entertaining option for myself, and I think I was right. So to kick off with the movie itself, I feel like I need to show you some of my initial reactions from when I was watching. Okay, so, Paul Walker just showed up, and I don't know much, but I know he's dead. This is gonna tie into a previous installment that I have no frame of reference for, isn't it? Okay, this intro is already ridiculous. They've just been smashing people up with a bank vault. Jason Momoa just got shit rocked off a bridge. This is already everything I've wanted. So it seems that Jason Momoa is hunting down the gang for revenge because Dom killed his dad. And he doesn't just want to kill Dom, he wants him to suffer. So he's coming for family. No, not family. I just love how giddy he is for how menacing his intentions are. He's completely unhinged.
Listen to me. Did you know that I was legally dead for 2 minutes? Bob, pay attention.
I definitely see why he's a highlight. But yeah, Momoa is systematically destroying Dom's life. He gets them set up as international terrorists by unleashing a giant ball bomb in Rome. Some real Indiana Jones shit here before Dom basically plays Rocket League with it. Cinema! But this gets Letty locked in a maximum security prison, separates the rest of them, and steals the entire crew's money, so good thing Tyrese came prepared.
Wait, hey, Roman, what do you do?
I say Spanx. He's Banks.
And this is working so effectively because the underground government agency that Dom's team usually helps thinks they're actually guilty. I guess this guy took over for someone named Mr. Nobody, Bree's dad, who may or may not be dead. But I must thank him because he gave me a quick little rundown on the franchise so far.
If it violates the laws of God and gravity, they did it twice.
You write that yourself?
I don't care what anyone says, I love Brie Larson. And they really let her kick ass here, big fan.
Shots?
So Buddy thinks their exact MO is corrupting law enforcement.
Everyone becomes family. It's like a cult with cars.
So he's pretty positive that they've manipulated this and gone rogue for no reason. Well, the reason is so that they'd also have a government agency hunting them down, but Bree's gonna be the voice of reason. So pretty intense, all that, plus a villain trying to destroy the family? That's gonna be the plot of so many of these going forward. But Momoa is super effective. Like, I can tell that Charlize was a super intense villain in this universe, and he completely undermines her by preemptively kidnapping her employees' families.
I was talking to Zeke, Amir, Kevin's dad.
Damn, she's still a badass though, look at her go. And yeah, she's a big villain, killed Lil B's mom, who is not Michelle Rodriguez. Drama. Honestly, I had no idea they were together in these movies. Oh, also Lil B, Dom's kid. So Dom is pretty much alone for the runtime of this movie. He has his interaction with Bree, who helps Letty escape, which is where I learned what the third F is other than fast and family, faith.
Nothing's impossible. You just have to have faith.
And then Helen Mirren? Helen Mirren? Why is Helen Mirren in Fast and Furious? Then we finally get Statham in the mix and what I'm gonna call the comedy crew of Ludacris, Tyrese, Han, and Ramsey. Which is also how I found out that Han is supposed to be dead.
The only reason a dead guy shows up at my door. Revenge.
And they just immediately start beating the shit out of each other. Did that punching bag just scream? But Han's not here for revenge, so they team up. Oh, okay. But before him, they run into Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson, that man's agent's working double time. Didn't let him drive a car though, probably for the best with that recent headline, so he just decided to become one in the new Transformers movie instead.
You're looking good, man.
But my favorite appearance in this movie, John Cena.
What's up?
Guys, did you know that John Cena was in these movies? Oh, you did? Okay. And thankfully they're letting him be a little goofy here.
Did I know you drive this thing?
Just so you know, in the 90s, if you were rolling in a 5.0, it meant you were the man.
Big fan of him in this babysitter role and this whole absurd scene of them escaping a commercial flight. It's just wild.
Holy shit!
Wait, swearing is for song lyrics only and stub toes.
Like they're about to drop out of a plane in a tinier plane and he's worried about swearing. I've also realized that there's a lot of wild tech in these movies. Momoa stole some universal weapons control thing from Cypher. Larson has an intense tracker called God's Eye, which of course Momoa later steals to kidnap Lil B. Hell, even before that, he's tracking people that Dom doesn't even know exist to protect. Like apparently this girl is the sister of Lil B's mom. Though I must say I adore that they managed to get a legit street race into this one though. That is commitment. I hope all of these movies do that. But working into our conclusion, this movie pissed me off. No, is John Cena gonna sacrifice himself? He rocket launches himself upside down with all of his explosives and crashes into them to slow them all down. No, not John Cena. No, he's dead. I'm actually gonna cry.
It looks like Uncle Muscle won't be coming to the next barbecue.
Is it because he is the barbecue?
I mean, it's very honorable.
You didn't take the easy joke, he just blew himself up. Yeah, don't worry, I already know I'm going to hell for that one. And then we get a ridiculous moment of Lil B leaping out of one car and essentially flying into Dom's, like he went at least a meter. Laws of God and physics broken indeed. Then the movie has a double cross. Turns out the agency dude wasn't being dumb, he was just always working for Momoa. Flashback, flashback, flashback. But then this movie has him come around to be on Dom's side before he shoots Tyrese and pals out of the sky.
You made one mistake. You never took my car.
And then he's just driving down a dam. Flames all around them, explosions going off, somehow not getting burned. And we're left with him and Lil B about to be blown up. So apparently there's gonna be a part 2. But it's not done yet because I totally forgot about Letty and Cypher escaping prison. And running into Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot is in these movies and has a submarine? Guess they want us to have a girl power moment here. And I guess the big dogs put their feud aside because we got The Rock back, baby! Apparently he's actually the one that killed Momoa's dad? What a turn of events! For me at least. I'm assuming that y'all already knew that.
Help me. You pulled the trigger.
Holy shit, he sounds like Chris Evans and Scott Pilgrim.
The one after that is me pulling the trigger.
Oh my god, does The Rock have a catchphrase in this?
You some bitch.
But yeah, that was actually really fun. I don't love the conclusion. I know it was gonna be a cliffhanger, but that's okay. I'm just really hoping for the best, but I kind of have fun with that. So, guess it's time to watch the rest. And while there are definitely some rocky installments, the sons of bitches got me. By the 5th installment, I was chanting family. We were finally on a cohesive trajectory. They got me invested in characters I didn't even know about 2 days ago. It's never goodbye. They made me feel betrayal. Is Dom turning on family right now? All this time you tell me it's family, Dom, and now it's family no mo? Always keeping me on my toes. None of it makes any damn sense, but it's nothing a Sunday dinner and a Dodge Charger can't fix. Okay, it's about 3 a.m. and I just finished F9. That was a very long weekend, so now I will collect my thoughts. So that was a lot, but I actually kind of wish I had watched all of them in theaters because they are wild and I think that would have been the experience. But before we dive into what each of the individual movies are kind of doing, just some overall thoughts. Now, as I was watching these, I kind of assumed that there'd be like a phase structure to these movies. Like I noticed that the first 3 would probably be considered the experimental phase. It had street racing mixed with crime with like hints of some larger scale issues brewing. And the first 3 kind of have direct counterpoints in other movies, as has been pointed out many times, but is still very obvious. Fast 1 is like Point Break. Fast 2 is basically Miami Vice. And then Tokyo Drift is Karate Kid with drifting. I'm pretty sure Han even makes a wax on, wax off comment.
There's no wax on, wax off for drifting.
And I call it the experimental phase because these ones are also very disjointed. Too Fast threw me off because there was suddenly no Dom, the family man himself, the only person I felt confident going into this franchise I was going to see in every single installment except maybe Tokyo Drift, and it turns out he was kind of in that one. I guess he turned down the $25 million offer to return because he didn't like the script, and he was kind of right. F2 ain't great outside a couple moments and memeable lines.
So forget about it, cuz.
Why did they think that was a good idea? Only to have him pop back up in the credits scene of Tokyo Drift, which is also a completely wild movie because it completely does away with any of the OG characters and said, fuck it, we're going to Tokyo and completely focusing on racing. These 3 are also the ones where the women just say some of the wildest shit and accept the most cringe lines being directed at them, and then they work.
Make sure you bring that body by the garage later. You can work on that front end of yours.
Maybe I will.
Like this gem from Tokyo Drift.
Winner gets me.
I'm so glad they mostly let the women be badasses from this point on, either because they wanted to or society just changed. Like, it's no longer the days of early 2000s MTV. But that doesn't fully track either because apparently to try and make Tokyo Drift work in the expanding franchise, it allegedly chronologically takes place after F6. Yeah, we're supposed to believe that Tokyo Drift and its flip phone iPod ass took place in the year of 2014. This is Tokyo, Japan. Forefront of technology. This is the only thing about this franchise that genuinely gives me a headache. We got Ludacris in space with a car and a scuba suit. Dom using a busted rope bridge to swing from one island to the next with a car. And this is the thing I can't get past. Apparently people like the character Han so much, so to work around him getting blown up in Tokyo Drift, they just reworked the entire timeline. I had just assumed he hadn't actually died, but then it turns out he didn't actually die, so all of that was pointless.
But can you get to the part where a car exploded and you're still alive?
Make it make sense! Also, to make the Han stuff slightly more confusing, he is in fact the same character from Justin Lin's solo directorial debut, Better Luck Tomorrow. But I guess that does make way for a very clean phase 2, the timeline destruction phase of 4 to 6, in which 5's actually quite good. And I guess that leads right into the we're pumping the NOS straight to our brains, why do we keep getting involved in government operations? No idea phase. And I thought that all that was going to be leading into the grand conclusion of Fast X, but apparently there's gonna be a Fast X 2. Which makes sense, there were more cliffhangers at the end of that movie than Across the Spider-Verse. And now I know there's actually a huge deal that Gal Gadot appeared in that last movie because she died in the 6th movie! I also didn't realize that Fast 4 was just her first movie, period. I thought she was like another celebrity appearance that we've grown to love so much in this franchise, but I guess it makes sense because it came out in 2009, well before Wonder Woman. But I feel like this movie is actually perfect for just featuring really well-known actors. Like, please, give me your Stathams, your Rocks, and your Therons. But another thing this franchise loves is just random rapper cameos, like outside of the ones that end up being made central cast members. I had a genuine was that fucking Iggy Azalea moment.
Where you been at? Ghost girl.
Cardi B pops up briefly. You see the side of Bad Bunny's head, so that's always fun. There's also the chain that passes hands so many times. It's like the umbrella from How I Met Your Mother. Then it really is just how quickly this ramps up from one movie to the next. And it really is instant progression. Like, we start with people that are just really talented drivers and like mid-range criminals going up against international private militaries, government agencies, and special forces. The movies also like to just kind of keep playing the same plot point out. It's either some government agency coming to them for help in exchange for their records being cleared, or they unintentionally end up in very serious criminal activity and get thrown under the bus for someone else's actions, and then the government agencies are coming after them. Rinse and repeat, mix and match, and like, honestly mostly works, and that's like all really just the backdrop for whatever fucking stunts they want to do. But I just need things to work in like some degree of cohesion, which is why 8 and 9 did not work that well for me. They're not terrible, but I think 5, 7, and 10 are just like way better, especially 5 and 7. Final point, I will be seated in theaters for Fast X2. But let's talk about each of these movies and like their rough plots and the things I like before I rank them. So back to where it all began, The Fast and the Furious.
You can have any brew you want, as long as it's a Corona.
Paul Walker getting a tuna sandwich from the Toretto Market and Cafe. Humble beginnings. And while everyone thinks he's here trying to scam on Mia, played by Jordana Brewster of Debs, which deserved as many sequels as this franchise, it's dumb that he's given the fuck me eyes to. I'm not even trying to be dramatic. Those are 100% the, ooh, who is this tall glass of water on a warm Savannah day eyes. And that's because he is interested in Dom. Kinda. First you're gonna think is to try to get his respect in the race world, but it's actually because he's an undercover cop trying to figure out if Toretto's crew are the ones jacking the semi-trucks to steal their loads. Cops just can't find a bunch of riced up neon green Civics for whatever reason. And honestly, that is already way more than I expected this movie to do. I really thought that this was just a straight up street racing movie. I really thought we went from street racing as their only crimes to international explosions in 4 movies. That is still kind of what happens with pretty much all of these characters, but at least there was some kind of connection to law enforcement right from the beginning. But there are a lot of highlights in this movie. Limp Bizkit's Rolling plays at one of the street races, which immediately reminds me what year we're in. The humble stunts that you 100% know were practical and they're still fun, just solid filming. But then it wasn't Ludacris hanging around the races like I expected, it was Ja Rule. I just need to know what Ja thinks of this Swift franchise exit. But the shit women say to him and then just the titty grabbing, like this whole movie is a 13-year-old's fantasy fulfillment, like specifically a 13-year-old in 2001. And honestly, that's pretty much what this whole first movie is, suburban wish fulfillment. You got Brian, this dude who's just so desperately looking for this validation. Even if it was for his job, you can tell that he genuinely wants the respect and the street cred from Dom. It's absolutely part of the reason why he didn't want to believe that Dom's crew was guilty. And then he gets that cred, which is like that everybody wanted back then. Like, no one wanted to be a poser. Back to the ladies though, Michelle Rodriguez is like aggressively territorial of Dom.
I was just talking.
Yeah, whatever.
And her energy in this movie made me think that they weren't together and she just like so desperately wanted them to be a couple, but like, nope, they're actually together. Now outside of Dom's crew and Brian, there is a rival racer gang, like somebody gets oil waterboarded. It's honestly just a really solid movie. I also love how things that are just like basic run-of-the-mill activities in every Fast and the Furious movie from like 4 on is actually a genuine cause for concern in this one. Like Dom is genuinely concerned about Vince jumping onto the semi because the driver has a gun. And then he does end up getting like super badly harmed, which is also unheard of in Fast and the Furious universe. And I thought it was interesting that they were actually the baddies, or at least actually the people Brian was looking for, because he so badly wanted them to just be run-of-the-mill street racers because he bonded with them. But even though they are guilty of those crimes, they are not the real baddies. That's the rival gang. Dom and co just steal shit from truckers who are planning to start retaliating because the cops haven't figured it out fast enough. Oh, and what were they stealing from those trucks? Combination TV, DVD players, and VCRs. Do you smell that? It's the particular scent of plastic coming off your VCR as you're rapidly rewinding your copy of The Fast and the Furious while sipping on a Capri Sun. Cause yeah, that rival gang, they shoot things and people, like Jesse here. Don't think they ever mention Jesse again. Correct me if I'm wrong. So much for family. Though I will say this one does not have any kind of particular focus on family, but it does have the group dinner prayers, and I can see how this laid the groundwork for what would be coming with Dom and the gang. So imagine my surprise when I clicked on Too Fast, Too Furious, amazing name by the way, and Dom wasn't there. Bullshit! Whatever. Following the events of F1, where Brian kills the rival gang dudes and gives Dom a head start on the escape, it seems like he's traded in his life of law enforcement for a life of street racing. He's left his clean-cut suburban lifestyle and entered full street cred era in Florida. And while it seems pretty accepted that this series didn't start going outside the bounds of reality until at least the 4th installment, I would argue that it's this movie in a street race where Brian launches his car off a raising bridge and Speed Racer jumps over his opponent. This one literally ramped up. And of course, anyone who's seen the movie remembers Tyrese's ejecto-cedo, cuz.
Ejecto-cedo, cuz!
It's absurd and it's comedy. Now, one upside is that this movie did continue the tradition of featuring Debs actresses with Devin Aoki, but then has her accepting lines like this being delivered to her.
Make sure you bring that body by the garage later. We can work on that front end of yours.
No! Devin Aoki and Debs would kick your ass, Devin Aoki and Too Fast. But another highlight, Ludacris is finally here. So this one continues the undercover work, but just takes it to the next level. To clean his record, the FBI hits up Brian to run a job for them that requires a driver. I also love how they caught him from a street race with some kind of like EMP harpoon, and they let him pick his own team. Not Dom though, he ain't here. It's Tyrese. So the dude who was essentially cosplaying the street in the first movie has just always been that way.
Drop it, hell. I want to hear about this, homie.
I said forget about it, cuz.
Again, who thought that was a good idea? Who told him to say it like that? But they're tasked with bringing down an Argentinian drug lord, so major ramp up from the TV-DVD combo theft. And to get in with the drug lord, they need to prove that they're the best driving team. So yes, more street racing, and for some reason they kind of just start fooling around and competing with each other, giving us the iconic backwards middle finger driving. So goofy, I love it. This one also features Eva Mendes as an undercover agent pretending to be the drug lord's lady, and Paul's obviously into her, she seems into him. Gonna be some drama.
You're always getting in trouble over a female, Brian.
I do really appreciate how they bend over backwards to keep the street racing in this one. Like, they have a street race with the guys they beat out for the job to get their, like, cars out of commission because it's a classic pink slip race, winner gets the car. And while I did enjoy this movie more on second watch and I could just, like, hone in on the ridiculous stuff, I do find this to be one of the weaker installments. Like, the action just wasn't as solid. I had a much harder time paying attention, and the villain just wasn't compelling or menacing enough. So with some lackluster reviews, surely you must be thinking they'd be bringing Dom back for part 3. But no, part 3 could be in a completely different franchise. It starts with Florida, but with all new characters, and as you can probably tell from the title, we go to Tokyo, where it's not just street racing, it's drifting. I still don't know how this movie got made the way it did. The screenwriter said that he was planning for Dom to return, but the studio wanted to focus on a younger cast after rough responses to Too Fast. Okay, but our lead is Sean, and he's not the best, but his acting really matches the tone of what we need here, and they really wanted this one set in a high school. I don't know if that would have helped more with like the fantasy fulfillment they thought that they were giving off, which is why this line is so wild.
Winner gets me.
Winner gets me? For the love of God, ladies, have some self-respect. But like I mentioned, Karate Kid. A kind of school loser gets into trouble, and by trouble, I mean gets into a dangerous street race with a jock, drives through an in-construction house, all to the tune of Ba Wida Bon Da Bang Da Bang by Kid Rock. Speaking of music though, the theme for this one, so good. Before everyone crashes, narrowly missing death, and he's sent to live with his father in Japan for reform, where he again sets his sights on a girl with a boyfriend who now wants to kick his ass, gets pulled into the world of drifting, and ends up with a Yakuza-adjacent drift mentor. Just like Daniel San. Kinda. But keeping up with the tradition of rapper features, we got Lil Bow Wow under the name Twinkie selling stolen electronics and shoes.
Brand new Jordans. Not even out yet.
That shoe came out in 2006. Reminder, we're supposed to be in 2014 right now, and they have flip phones. Why did they ever think that was a logical idea? The business of selling severely outdated tech must do pretty well for him though, because he has this Hulk car. This one is particularly absurd though. There's like this Yakuza adjacent dude that Sean has to keep racing, DK.
Can he drive?
You know what DK stands for?
Donkey Kong?
Drift King.
And much like Mr. Miyagi, Han pops up to pick up Sean as his drifting protege. And most of the movie is just that, learning to drift, doing drift stuff, girl problems, until the real drama starts when it's revealed that Han, who works with DK, has been skimming money when collecting his payments from the local businesses. It's like a Robin Hood thing without the final step of giving it back to the poor, and you're technically also the one stealing from the poor on behalf of the king, so I guess it's not really a Robin Hood thing at all. But before they can catch Han to maim and presumably kill him, he dies. Just put that explosion scene in your memory bank for a little bit. We'll be coming back to it later. And what follows from here is Sean trying to squash beef by giving the Yakuza boss all of Bow Wow's money, and to settle Sean and DK's beef with the raise, loser leaves town. I like how he says he's gotta fix his own mistakes and then just takes Bow Wow's money. But yes, the Yakuza historically settle beef with drift races, with flip phones all around the mountain in 2014. This one is so absurd, but kind of fun for that. My biggest issues with it are retroactively knowing that it's supposed to be taking place in 2014. And if it had existed when I was 9, I probably would have loved it. I'm genuinely surprised they've never brought Drift King back for future installments. But Han really is the highlight here. I can definitely see why they started bending over backwards to try to get him back in the franchise. And of course, the Vin Diesel cameo right at the end.
Nice ride. I won it from my friend Han a few years ago.
Tease the people with what they want, and what they want is Dominic Toretto. I also found out that they added that scene after they were already doing test screenings of the movie. I guess they realized they were going to keep going, but pick back up with Dom based on Vin Diesel's input. They wanted to make sure that people knew that was the plan. And instead of asking for money in exchange for the cameo, he asked for the rights to the Chronicles of Riddick. So yeah, I guess Vin Diesel and his company own the Chronicles of Riddick. Universal was like, yeah, sure, here's this entire IP. Give us our 2 lines for Tokyo Drift, please. Which brings us to Fast 4, aka Fast and Furious. The one where they drop the thes because it's cleaner that way. No time for letters, not fast enough. Ampersand. I'll be honest, at first I didn't realize that this was supposed to be taking place before the events of Tokyo Drift. I just thought Han wasn't actually dead. You have to understand that I've already been told he's come back from the dead in Fast 10, so I just assumed he'd done it a couple times. But they're up to their old tricks, stealing gas trucks, but it's cool because it's a little Robin Hoodie. They're giving it back to the people, but getting paid to do that. Also, Vin saw the bridge stunt in Fast 2 and said, "Hold my Corona, I'm driving underneath a rolling flaming gas truck." But after all these thefts, the law is on Dom's trail. So to try and protect Letty, who I now realize is his wife, he leaves her in the middle of the night, and within 3 months, she's dead. So much for keeping her safe, Dominic. So much for family, Dominic. But I already know she's not dead, so... He then gains some super driver omniscience, notices some burn marks on the road where Letty died that can only be caused by a specific nitrous fluid, and suddenly gets a full vision of her car flipping and someone shooting her. So the hunt is on. And Brian is now an FBI agent. Guess that garage with Tyrese didn't work out long term, or we just really needed a reason for him and Dom to be on the same path looking for the same guy. Because Letty was killed by a henchman for a drug lord that Brian is trying to catch. And of course, to get in with this drug lord Braga as one of his new drivers, there's a street race, which is where we get Silver Linings Playbook and Gal Gadot. Now, the big drama reveal in this one is that the FBI was specifically using Letty to try to catch Braga. She made a deal with Brian in exchange for her and Dom's freedom because she just wanted him to come home. Fuck you, Dom, you abandoned family. You know, there's a lot of get out of jail free cards in this franchise, a lot of street race expertise required. They have some fun with this one though, they pull a Star Wars with a decoy drug lord, turns out Silver Linings was Braga. And Dom does help the cops catch him because he's not the one who specifically killed Letty. This guy is. So Dom lays the fucker out and gets arrested. So Brian and Mia bust him out. And I love that they clarified that there were no fatalities in this prison bus breakout, but... not a single casualty. So much for that cushy FBI job. So obviously the pieces of things getting ultra ridiculous come back to this one, and it's also where you feel the family forming. But it just really lacked the goofy charm that the other ones have, and I think these movies really need that in my opinion. It's kind of how they shine, like Tyrese's smile. Which brings us to Fast 5, one of the best. We pick up with Brian and Mia in Rio de Janeiro waiting for Dom, which is where we finally get another OG appearance, Vince, who can convinces them to do a job that ended up bebeing a setup to get a chip for, you guessed it, another drug lord named Reyes. Also the guy from the beginning of the new movie, so we're getting the connections. That's Jason Momoa's daddy. I love how the tables are turned because now Vince is lying to them and Brian knows it, but in the original it was Brian lying to them and Vince knew it. But because DEA agents end up dead on this job, Dom, Mia, and Brian end up on the government's hit list, so they send DSS agent Lucas Hobbs to track him down, aka The Rock. Now I realize that he and Vin could and seem to actually have a fight over who has a bigger stranglehold for creative franchise direction, but he is great here. So now they have the fucking Rock on their tails and an international criminal who wants his chip because it has the locations of all of his legal cash stashes. Why that was on a chip hidden inside a car that was seized by the DEA, I will never know. So to get out of this mess and get a massive $100 million payday, they need a team. So finally, we are blending the best of both worlds. We got the East Coast boys with the West Coast boys. And Gal, who I might add finally put an end to the ridiculous comments at women.
Sexy legs, baby girl. What time do they open?
They opened the same time as I pulled this trigger.
And shit here gets so intense. We went from run-of-the-mill driving prowess to International Ocean's 11 on steroids. When none of these people have any experience doing any of this except Gal, who used to be an intelligence operative. Especially Ludacris, man. He was a referee in Too Fast, and now suddenly he's the high-tech expert? Sure, okay, we'll believe that he knows how to get a handprint off a bathing suit to open an advanced bank vault. We'll allow it, because it's so fun. But outside the heist stuff, we get a hard commit to family. Mia's pregnant, so that's literally family. Dom lets Vince back in on the final mission because
there's always room for family.
They are pushing it hard. And while for once an organized street race doesn't have anything to do with the outcome of the conflict, they do have a street race with their cop cars. And even that's just a feel-good moment for Dom to let Brian win so he has an excuse to give him an extra $1 million as a baby gift. Family, man! And they just need to remind us that they are good criminals with morals. Hobbs and his men get ambushed after catching Dom's crew, and instead of leaving Hobbs to die, Dom saves him. And because Reyes killed his whole team, Hobbs is down to help Dom complete his mission.
I'll ride with you, Toretto. At least until we kill that son of a bitch.
I love it. It's so dumb. Though tragically, Vince dies in the crossfire. Brought him back just to send him back out again. But now it's time to go off the rails, my friends. They connect to the vault with all of Reyes' money and just start dragging it through the streets of Brazil, using it like a wrecking ball. Look, I expect to be able to do everything in these movies with the Dodge Charger, or I will be suing Chrysler. And it's quite obvious now that the beginning of Fast 10 is the end of Fast 5. Circle. So that all plays out. Brian comes back through to save Dom. Hobbs rolls through, pops Reyes a couple times, and gives them a 24-hour head start without the money.
Toretto, I'll see you soon.
No, you won't.
Because they bait and switch the safe on the escape. Ooh, that ocean shit. Wild times. This one was super fun, and I just love how when they bust open the safe, Dom looks up like, thank you, Lord, for rewarding my criminal activity. Now, the only other thing in this movie that I've neglected to mention is a new romantic interest, Elena. She seems to like Dom, Dom seems to like her, and since Letty isn't around, why not? Except this ends with Hobbs finding out that Letty is alive. Ooh, and they let Eva Mendes lay that down to have another callback. So much for that romantic detour. But thanks to Fast 10, I also know that this is Lil B's mom, so who the fuck knows? Also, Han and Gal get together in this one, so good for him. Bringing us to Fast and Furious 6.
Some things you just have to take on faith.
Fast, faith, family. Fast, faith, family, family, family. Continuing with the international crime work, and thankfully, Hobbs, who apparently needs help finding someone named Shaw. And not Statham's Shaw, a different one. And Dom's gonna do it because Letty's alive and apparently working for him.
I need your help, Dom. I need your team.
I just have to wonder, why is Dom's team any better than his highly trained government unit? Makes no sense, but we must allow it. But things are tough for Dom when they find Letty. She shoots him. Because obviously she has amnesia. Seems like Dom's omniscience in the fourth movie had a slight fault and she wasn't shot, just a little bit blown up. And then, Shaw found her in hospital. Turns out Braga, the guy that Letty was supposed to help Brian catch, worked for Shaw. And once Shaw realized she had no memory, he kept her instead of killing her. Sure. And the ridiculous shit that Brian does to go talk to Braga about Shaw in a prison, literally calls his FBI pal the one whose nose he smashed. to sneak him into that high security prison in a country that he's facing life in. But hey, to get Braga's attention, he gets to do it again.
Sorry about this, man. Sorry about what? Again?
So that was fun, we'll allow it. But in the end, it doesn't matter. Dom doesn't care that Letty shot him.
You don't turn your back on family, even when they do.
Which is when they bring the street racing back. Dom goes up against Letty so they can have a nice I know everything about you moment. Really putting in the romantic work here for Diesel, I'm into it. But then we're just right back to up in the ante with tanks.
They got a tank. I'm sorry. Did somebody just say a tank?
Fuck those civilians. Letty is not a fan of crushing people alive with a tank. But this is right before they cable flip that tank, which sends her flying. So Dom dives out of his car to catch her in midair before slamming into a car on the other side of the bridge. The man's invincible.
Jesus Christ.
Even he knows. But it's not a success yet because Shaw went after family. No, not family. He's got Mia.
But this changes nothing.
It changes everything.
Look at Hobbs letting that fly and letting a terrorist escape. What a dude. So much for their pardons, though. But that leads us into our even more ridiculous conclusion. The never-ending runway scene. So the plane is just going down this runway for so long, and then like right as it basically just barely starts getting off the ground, they manage to take it out. And instead of a jump tackle, Dom takes out this dude with a leaping headbutt like a fucking dolphin before the whole plane goes up in flames, and Dom somehow manages to drive out the front as it's exploding. Then his car flips into the wreckage, but he walks out unscathed. Invincible. And because they took down Shaw, they get their pardons. But for all our triumphs and grand escapes, there was a loss. Giselle. That's Gal's character, by the way. But I know she's still alive too. Her death was interesting though. Like she sacrifices herself to shoot this dude going at Han, but I feel like she potentially could have done that one-handed. But I guess they needed her out of the way so Han can have his tortured past in Tokyo where he dies. Because reminder that chronologically Tokyo Drift is the next installment. I fucking can't. I'm gonna be on my deathbed and that's gonna come back to my mind. But her being alive means they didn't even go check for her body. Also sucks for Elena, you know, the woman we know will be the mother of Dom's child because Letty's back.
That's gotta be awkward. But sexy as hell.
I guess we can't completely shake the bro douche. This is their cultural franchise. Bringing us to Furious 7 with new lighting because it got dark out, and that's right guys, a title shift.
This time it ain't just about being fast.
It's about being furious. But I'm a little bit confused because 6 is the one that like in the movie is just titled Furious 6, but this one's called Furious 7 everywhere. Oh well, I think this might be the best Fast and Furious movie. It has the perfect combination of like a compelling story, a really interesting antagonist, and then like just the buck wild over the top crazy shit. But that antagonist, Jason Statham, Deckard Shaw, a man on a revenge mission. Man, they really do kind of really like using those plot points, don't they? And he doesn't give a shit that his brother got fucked up because he was fucking with someone else's family, because that's his family and he'll fuck everyone else up too. And to make sure we all knew where we were on the timeline, Fast 6's mid-credit scene is Han when he dies in Tokyo Drift, but now it's Statham who rammed his car. So I guess he's just looking to work his way through the Fast gang, making him the Furious. That intro was badass though, like when it pulls back in the hospital and you see all the terrified staff and then the slew of dead government agents he worked through. Now, other than Statham's revenge tour, a big component of this movie is Dom and Letty working at rebuilding their connection because she's just getting a little bit of memory and trauma flashbacks.
Where you been at? Ghost girl?
Okay, for one, why Iggy Azalea in the movie and why Iggy Azalea say that? And the other one is Brian not really being able to settle into the family life. You know, he loves Mia, he loves being a dad, he misses the bullets though.
Hey buddy, cars don't fly.
Oh, you know that's coming back around. This is also the movie that they had to do some reworking with because Paul died while it was still in production, and they wanted to make sure he had some semblance of a proper send-off. So I am genuinely shocked at how much this movie manages to juggle. Solid antagonist, great action, rebuilding a romance that didn't even feel that compelling when it was originally introduced, and taking care of the emotional footwork around a central character dying, all while delivering us some of the most ridiculous shit this franchise is ever gonna pull. But Deckard is truly taking no prisoners. He even goes at Hobbs, who narrowly makes it out by jumping out an exploding window. And he is mangled, alive and okay, but full limb casts. Dom would have walked away from that easy. In fact, he goes on to survive Deckard blowing up Toretto House. But I love the build-up into that. He gets the call from Deckard, which was the one from like the mid-credit scene after he kills Han.
You don't know me. You're about to.
Get down!
No hesitation, he just knew. Cause Dom's superhuman, baby. So he heads to Tokyo to bring Han's body back, aka the Tokyo Drift cameo. It's been like 10 years since Tokyo Drift came out. And they are putting in the work to conceal that receding hairline cause Sean's still supposed to be a teenager. I really need to know what the original plan was for that cameo because this was clearly not it.
I got nothing but time.
So that was a fucking lie.
But we're back in America with a nice little car standoff between Deckard and Dom, and they just drive their cars into each other. This is like the only time I've seen Dom a little shook because Deckard reinforced his car.
Stick around. It's gonna get a lot meaner.
Thought this was gonna be a street fight?
And if you thought that this was just gonna be the gang trying to hunt down Deckard before Deckard could hunt down them, oh no, it has to be bigger. Kurt fucking Russell shows up on Hobbs' recommendation, Mr. Nobody. But he has no interest in hunting Deckard down. He wants Dom and his team to help recover a hacker named Ramsey who created something known as God's Eye, which is a surveillance device that puts the bat sonar thing in Dark Knight to shame, and also a plot device in the new movie. It's all connected. Who's been kidnapped by a military terrorist group. Again, no idea why they think Dom's crew is better than their highly funded and trained team.
Let's hit it from here.
I don't think that's...
No, don't think. That's my job.
So this next segment is one of my favorites from all the movies. They drive their cars out of the back of a plane so they can parachute into the mountains and sneak up on the terrorists. The whole scene is art. They have coordinated formations, harpoons, explosions, throwing Ramsey onto cars before Deckard pops up and just starts fucking with Dom. So Dom has to like wheelie her through the sunroof. It's so absurd. I love it. And it's not just Dom doing absurd shit. Brian gets trapped in a flip bus that's about to go off a cliff, so he has to run up it, jump off, and then Letty drift slides at the edge so he can grab onto her car. Yeah, there are levels to this franchise going off the rails, but this one commits, and it is better for it. Then Dom does what I believe to be one of the most ridiculous. He's cornered on a cliff, but seems confident. He does a big dust storm spin, and then waits for it to dissipate and for them to start shooting at him before driving off the edge. And I assumed he had another parachute. He was so visibly confident, but no, they just fucking crash and roll down this entire mountain. And I get that his car was fortified, but he walks out with no injuries. This man is not human. But then we get an even more ridiculous scene. They need to infiltrate a car in Abu Dhabi owned by a prince to get God's Eye back. And we get Vin Diesel driving a car in between buildings because the brakes are busted.
Dom, cars don't fly! Cars don't fly!
Literally launches himself out one glass wall window through the air from a sky rise into another building. And then he did it again.
No.
Cinema! Man, I knew Cars Don't Fly was coming back. And this whole scene is great. Like, Luda gets to show some fighting prowess, Letty gets to beat up Ronda Rousey, T-Pain is DJing. But because Deckard realized that these highly trained men were after Dom, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Oh my god, the commitment. No idea why they didn't just shoot him the second they walked in, but sure, it's now Deckard and the terrorist militia against Dom and Nobody's crew. And it doesn't go so well, so Dom brings them back to the streets of Los Angeles. And I love that this whole thing is to prevent God's Eye from getting into the wrong hands, but Deckard basically seems to have the ability to find anyone, anytime, anywhere. And it's about as ridiculous as you can imagine here. We've got people diving from one car to the next, which I've now learned seems to be a favorite in these later installments. Hobbs fucking smashes his cast to get in on the action. We get a callback.
You thought this was gonna be a street fight? You're goddamn right it is.
Damn it, Dom, and your nobility, you should end this.
Thing about street fights, the street always wins.
All topped off with Dom driving his car at a helicopter, missing but hanging a bag of grenades on it, which Hobbs then shoots until it explodes. And finally, we see Dom injured, near death. We got Letty saying that she remembers everything.
Why didn't you tell me we were married?
Because you can't tell someone they love you.
Oh my god, you sick sons of bitches, you handled that bullshit so well. And then they deal with the combined Paul dying and Brian leaving the crew. The whole movie's basically been pushing him to realize that his family is what matters most, so he'll be stepping away from the action.
You aren't going to say goodbye?
It's never goodbye.
Oh my god, how dare they? Then they have one last race, but we get some greatest hits from throughout the series with Vin Diesel's fucking voiceover before they split off and go in different directions. God damn it, they pulled it off. I am crying and was crying. And then they kind of ruin it all with Fast 8 Fate of the Furious. Do you get it, guys? F8. Fate. Okay. This one feels weird and it had a really hard time keeping me engaged. And it also offended me. We have just been firmly committed to the idea of family, only to have Dom turn on family because Charlize Theron told him to. Okay, fair. And I assumed it was because Cypher here had kidnapped Elena and the kid he doesn't know he has because Letty specifically mentions a kid earlier on. And then yes, I also have the benefit of knowing that he has a kid in part 10. And yeah, that's exactly what she did. But the Dominic Toretto I know would have never let that fly. He would have found a way around it. But no, we got Dom betraying everyone, running his buddy Hobbs off the road, who they also made way goofier this time around.
If the pink butterflies beat my red dragons, that means we lose the championship, which then means I have to spend a lot of time in ice cream shops and a lot of time at Tay-Tay concerts.
That's fine though, I always like it when these err on the side of goofy. And all that leads into a really cool prison break scene between him and Deckard.
I've been waiting a long time for this.
Keep waiting, bitch.
It's so good. Because Mr. Nobody has brought them and the Fast Crew together to find Dom and stop Cypher. Yeah, Deckard too, he's willing to go along with this because Cypher is the one who got his brother on his downfall mission. But I think a major issue with this installment is that it's like world-ending stakes. Cypher wants to launch nukes to teach a lesson. But I know that's not actually gonna happen, and it's stupid as shit. They've also retroactively made her the mastermind behind all the other major missions they've had. Just some real there's always a bigger fish energy.
There's always a bigger fish.
And it feels weird to have her be this super intelligent, super calculated person who then relies on someone she has to continuously blackmail. It's just not smart. The answer to him thwarting all your missions is to kill him. Because obviously he's gonna scheme an exit. With Helen Mirren. Apparently, she's Shaw's mommy. Not scheming quite fast enough, though. Cypher kills Elena because Dom didn't kill Letty, and I guess that deals with the awkwardness of that relationship. But even with all that stuff happening, the movie just feels so bland for so much of the runtime. Like, Cypher hacking a bunch of cars may seem cool, but it's not really that exciting. It's certainly not driving your car in between skyrise buildings. But hey, there are some absurd highlights, like they jack and disarm a nuclear submarine. I also really like Deckard saving Dom's kid. He has him listening to Alvin and the Chipmunks, which I love. I rocked that cassette as a kid. You know, the one with Billy Ray Cyrus? Yeah.
Is the music good?
Yeah, like I said, Helen Mirren and their mommy got them in on a big plan to save Dom's fam jam after faking Statham's death. This series loves to fake deaths. It's a very convoluted plan and I don't know how it entirely came together, but who fucking cares? At least it's entertaining.
You're gonna shoot a baby? You sick bastard.
Then, the highlight all-star ending. Cypher tries to blow up Dom, so he leads the Seeker missile to blow up the submarine, flies out of his car unharmed, and then the team shields him from the flaming explosion with their cars. Cause family's got your back, Dom! Obviously, Cypher escapes for future installments. Also a fan of Deckard being on their side, even though it was a little bit of a fast turnaround, like he killed Han. Wait, let me play you this clip from Fast 7.
When you find the guy that killed Han, what are you gonna do?
Words ain't even been invented yet.
And now they're sharing meals. I really kind of figured it was going to be a more of a like, you know, we're not friends, but I ain't gonna kill you either situation. But then it was finally time to finish it off with F9, the one where we round back to family. And I didn't love this one either. It is very messy. And I genuinely expected to like this one the most because I knew through process of elimination that this was the one that they were gonna be in space. But right when this one starts, I knew we were going back in time a bit because we got the classic Universal intro. And it's to the day Dominic's dad died in a race. Like, car literally explodes in the air. So this one is giving us the Toretto backstory while introducing the big twist that Dom has a brother, which I already knew about because I started with part 10. Wait, you're telling me they didn't even mention he had a brother for 9 movies? Doesn't Mia even specify that Dom's her only brother? So much for family again, Dom. I guess he street raced Jacob out of town after he got out of prison when he realized that Jacob tampered with their father's car.
The worst thing you can do to a Toretto is take away their family. That's what you did to Jacob.
Well, maybe he shouldn't have killed his own dad then. But apparently that's not completely what happened. Their dad asked Jacob to tamper with it, but didn't tell him how risky it was. They were in debt, so I assume he just needed his car to get knocked out of the race early because he was favored to win, so he would have made a bet behind the scenes against himself to get a massive payoff. But then he died and no one got money. But now he's all grown up, working for some rich dude trying to track down yet another doomsday device, Project Ares. But the whole scene of them running into each other? wild. Ludacris drives across a wood bridge that's collapsing cause fuck physics, but that is nothing compared to Dom, who hooks onto a rope with one of his tires and swings into a cliff on the other island. Look, I'm gonna do this with a Dodge Charger Hellcat, and if I die, my ghost will be suing Chrysler. And that's after Cena launched himself off a cliff and magnetically hooked to a stealth plane. Jesus Christ. They also bring Mia back in this one because Jacob would also be her brother, but there is no world where Brian wouldn't also come with her. But under the circumstances, I get it. Oh, also, Otto and Jacob kidnapped Cypher so they could use her to activate Ares, and she just gets to deliver amazing lines like,
"You're Yoda."
Because he's a powerful Jedi, right?
No. Yoda's a puppet with someone's hand up his ass.
See, Ares needs 2 pieces and an activation key to work. And the one name they know is attached to the activation key is fucking Han. You know, the guy who was skimming cash from the Yakuza before he died? Oh, they really had no idea what to do with him. So the gang's headed back to Tokyo, which means Sean and Twinkie, except they're not in Tokyo, they're in Germany. Man's supposed to be 23 and he looks 40, because he basically is. And they're like homegrown rocket scientists now.
Is that a Pontiac Fiero strapped to a rocket engine?
Impressive. I know.
No, that's not impressive.
But it's actually Letty and Mia who find out where Han might have stashed the activation key. And there's a girl there, and Han. So much for needing to rework the timeline because he was definitely dead. And it's so dumb. So Mr. Nobody tracked him down because he'd worked with Giselle and offers Han a job to steal Project Ares. And apparently that girl is the key. Her parents used their DNA to lock it, and she has both. Very ultimate Spider-Man. So you're telling me that he was hiding this girl the entire time Tokyo Drift was happening? And skimming money from the Yakuza is considered laying low? Oh. And then, on a moment's notice, while Han is out racing said Yakuza, something he absolutely wasn't anticipating that day, Mr. Nobody knows that Deckard is gonna try to kill him, so the Han in the car is a hologram. And he's just had to pretend to be dead ever since. Man, this is no longer fun stupid, this is just stupid. Had I seen this in theaters or with some friends, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more just to be able to laugh at how like stupid it all is, but like, I've built to this movie. I had expectations. Maybe if I had started here, but no, at this point, not even the flying space car with scuba suits could flip my mood around.
What we gonna do? Hijack a space shuttle? Put rockets on our backs?
That's exactly what we're gonna do.
Okay, yeah, it helped a little bit.
We're in outer space!
But they gotta go up there to stop a satellite that would initiate Project Ares, which would give Jacob control of literally anything with codes. But while they're setting that up, Dom just pulls down an entire building with his hands. Like, obviously he's fine. It's Dominic Toretto. But it launches him into flashbacks of his dad, including a memory where he realizes his dad was stressed about money. So he iced his brother out for nothing. But it's cool, Jacob comes around after Otto double crosses him to strike a deal with Cypher. And even more ridiculously, the ground crew has harnessed the power of magnets and just used them to drag and launch cars all over the place. Until they then magnet flip a multi-sectional tank. Which of course ends with Jacob jumping out of his car onto Dom's. Look, at least now there's fun stupid stuff. I am down for this. All culminating in Tyrese driving the space car into the satellite to save the world. And somehow they're not dead.
Pourquoi est-ce qu'on dirait des mignons?
Holy shit. So that stuff was fun, and there are some other highlights, like Tyrese questioning if they're invincible, because like, you know, we all are. I also think that this is the first time Mia and Letty directly speak to one another. That can't be right. Is that right? Sadly, I don't find Cena as good in this one as I do in 10, so I'm very glad they brought him back. And then we get our mid-credits scene. Han knocking on Statham's door, and we're full circle. Wrong hair though. But yeah, that is all of them. It's definitely cool to see all the things that built into 10 being the way it is. You know, I don't really love how they brought Han back, but I'm glad he is. And then I'm just genuinely shocked at how much they do callbacks from previous installments and get away with just redoing the same general plot over and over. And I honestly don't even know how to begin ranking these because I feel like 4, 6, 8, and 9 are all fairly even for me, but just for different reasons. But I will say that 7, 5, and 1 are all genuine highlights, the tippity top, and I had had a blast starting with 10, so I guess those are at least my top 4. But that concludes my Fast and Furious journey, and I think I'm a little better for it because now I know that as long as I have a Dodge Charger, I can't die. But that is gonna do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to let me know what your Fast and Furious rankings are down below and what your favorite moments are. There's just so much stuff going on in this. I'm sure I missed some things. Thank you as always to my Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. All my social medias are listed down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later. Oh my god, I forgot about Hobbs and Shaw.